too.
So, have you ever been in therapy before?
No.
No? Okay. Well, what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, I'd like to just kind of talk about just a little bit of housekeeping.
Okay.
What's said here in this session is it is confidential. So,
Okay.
nothing's going to be said outside of the session. This is your time. You're paying to be here. So, it's all in, it's very confidential. There are a couple things though that would require me to contact somebody, such as like if you told me that you wanted to harm somebody else, or if you mentioned anything, I don't know, about harming yourself perhaps too, that would be a cause for me to potentially break confidentiality. Also, I'm a mandated reporter, so any kind of talk about child abuse, then I would have to make a phone call. So
Okay.
I don't want you to feel like, that I'm
No, I understand.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So why don't you tell me a little bit what brings you here? What brings you in?
Lately I've just been feeling like my thoughts get out of control and I feel like I can't relax, and it's been kind of hard to sleep and just, I don't know, things just seem heightened lately.
Heightened? Oh,
Stressful.
that must not be fun.
Mm-mm.
No? Can you tell me a little bit about what it looks like, or like give me a specific situation when you feel heightened, or?
Well, work can be really stressful, and I just don't know if I'm like staying in the moment, and like people will be talking but I can't really like focus. I kind of feel like worried about other things come to mind.
Okay. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a preschool teacher.
Oh, so you really have to be focused, because you've got
Mhm.
all those little minds that are kind of unfocused, and
Mhm.
having that kind of blurry, that must be really hard.
Yeah, lately it just feels like, well, I would say for the past, since the school year started, it's
Okay.
been difficult.
Okay. Well, that doesn't sound like fun.
No, it's not. You know,
Okay.
the kids are so cute and everything, but I just can't seem to be more of myself. I don't
Okay.
know. It just feels like feel stressed out.
That could be, and I could see how that would be, it makes sense that would be really stressful.
Mm-hmm.
That job alone, but then also when you kind of can't seem to feel like you're feeling yourself, and when you feel like it's fuzzy. Does that sound about right?
I don't know
Your
if the
thoughts.
feeling is like, yeah, the thoughts are just kind of like, oh, I missed that because I was already like over here where I
Mhm.
should have been still over here.
Yeah, that can, that sounds like it's not very fun. Have you done anything, because you said this kind of started at the beginning of the school year, have you done any measures on your own as far as like trying to, I don't know if there's any kind of cultural or traditional type of ways to make things better?
I think there are things I've practiced. Well, I'm in school too.
Oh my
so,
gosh.
Yeah.
So you have to be focused.
Yeah. So there are practices that I've done, like meditation and
Okay.
things like that. I just don't feel like I have any time to do that right now, and so I kind of feel scattered sometimes.
Well, so the meditation didn't work, and so that's kind of what brought you to this level.
Mm-hmm.
And if your mind is going a million miles an hour, you're not going to be able to kind of sit still and really get those kind of effects, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, what has been? Can you give me an example of kind of the worst situation, or like when it's been at its worst?
I think they say for kids like transitions are really hard.
Mhm.
I think even to be in charge of transition, it makes it really hard because have to be, the one in control in the classroom, and I just kind of feel like I can not snap isn't the word, but I feel like short-tempered sometimes with the kids, where that causes me to be anxious is to move from one area into a new area. And
Mhm.
so, for kids, that's really
Okay.
anxiety producing, and I feel like I could be feeding their anxiety.
And that's not something that you really want to do, so that
Mm-mm.
makes sense. So you've tried a couple different things. It hasn't, this anxiety hasn't gotten better, and you've mentioned that a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you're here, and we're going to try to work together on it. Because we have to technically give a diagnosis, do you feel comfortable with the diagnosis of anxiety? It sounds to me like that, having the racing thoughts and you're in a high stress job with a lot of other people, and so that makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
The diagnosis is not something that is set in stone. It's something that we can change if it doesn't work, but that way it can kind of give us different goals to
Sure.
at least, so you're comfortable with that?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of where I'm thinking about going. That's where it sounds like that's what it would probably be. And so when it's ever been the worst, when you've ever felt super anxiety, like you're ready to snap, you said, have you ever felt suicidal before or had any kind of feelings like that?
I think there are thoughts that come in, but it's just when I kind of feel out of control with the thoughts, and it passes just as quickly as all the other thoughts.
Okay.
I know that I don't like having those thoughts, but there isn't any. There's no plan.
There's no plan. Okay.
No, it's just feeling overwhelmed,
Okay.
and then I can quickly bring myself back to
Okay.
just knowing in my head that it's just trying to get the head and the physical body to be present and to try to feel in control.
And that's really hard to do when you've got all these bodies that you're in charge of, and then when you don't feel like you're in control of what's going on in your own head. So that makes sense. Okay. And you said you have no plan for suicide or anything, and I think being overwhelmed, it would be normal. Well, not necessarily normal. That there is no normal technically, but okay. Well, what I'd like to do is I have a small assessment that I'd like you to kind of fill out. It's only 7 questions, and it just kind of it's the generalized anxiety disorder screen. So there's 7 questions, and it'll kind of give us a way of gauging the process.
Okay.
Okay.
So do that right now.
So I'll have you do that right now. It shouldn't take very long. Here,
Okay.
I'll give you something to write on here
Okay.
as well, and then we can kind of discuss that and also kind of discuss a couple other things.
Okay.
So just take your time.
So over the last 2 weeks, how often have you been bothered by the following problems? Okay.
Yep. It's kind of a Likert scale. Excuse me.
Okay, do you want me to add these up?
Sure. Okay. Thank you. So it looks like you've had a lot of times where you've kind of felt anxious and on edge, and you've told me that as well. So what we'll do is we'll take this right now, and then maybe in a couple weeks, if you decide to stick with therapy with me, we'll do this again and see if it's kind of gone down or if it's gone up, and see how it goes. So I'll keep this and put it in your file for right now. I did want to kind of talk a little bit about what therapy sessions would look like and what the goals would be. So for because it's not very comfortable where you're at right now. Basically, there's a great. I'm familiar with a method of therapy called cognitive behavior therapy. Which is evidence based, and the way the sessions look like is that you'd come in and we'd do a mood check and talk about how you were feeling the week before and anything that you wanted to kind of point out that you felt at different times, And then what we would do is set the agenda, set the plan. You know,
Okay.
with working with curriculums, you set the agenda for the day for your students. We'll kind of do the same thing.
Okay.
Just different things that you want to talk about, you know, different parts some things that have happened, just to have a little plan, so we
Okay.
can go off of that. And then we will do an update of the week before too,
Okay.
and review homework. And when I say homework, I'm not going to give you, you're busy, you're in school, you've got kids that you're, you know, with the preschool, you've got a family life. I'm not going to give you a ton of homework. It might be something of, you know, just keeping check of certain things. If you can write things down, if, like, this is how I felt at this time, and this is what I was doing. That's what it depends on what's going on. Anxiety in general is kind of a mountain, and we can't just kind of go and say, okay, we're done. We have to take baby steps to go through it. And
Sure.
it's a way of rewiring our minds, you know. So instead of when something happens, we don't go right to that anxious part where things get blurry and we kind of have like a tunnel vision
Okay.
type of, and
Sure.
you know, we get on edge. So what we're going to do is kind of use our thoughts and behaviors and look into them at specific times, and then just make a new path.
Okay.
So it's going to be awkward at first. It's going to be strange and weird, but the more you practice it, the easier it'll get.
Okay.
How does that
sounds
sound?
good.
Okay. So going back on that, I kind of sidetracked there, but then
No, that
we'll
was helpful information.
well, good.
Yeah.
So then what we'll do is we will just kind of review the homework from last week, and then go through the agenda. You know,
Okay.
basically talk about what we're going to do for when other things happen, and kind of go through each step. Do a summary at the end of the past and what we're going to work on in the future.
Okay.
Review homework that would be set for next week, whatever that would be and however that would look at, and then just kind of see what you thought
Okay.
of the whole thing. How does that sound?
That sounds good. I think that knowing more information, I mean, it was hard for me to come in today, but I feel like I need somebody objective to help me just find some skills that I can utilize. I mean, I don't feel like completely out of control. I think it's situational, but I feel like this isn't something, it's been a few months now, so I just wanted to talk with somebody who could help me.
Well, and I think it takes great strength. I mean, you have the insight to know that things are not working out. You've tried different things, and you want to get it kind of figured out so that you can function. And it makes sense that, you know, because it's not fun when you kind of when you feel like you're in a fog and you don't feel like you have the control, and you got all those little people running around.
Yeah.
So hopefully, you know, there is hope for everything. And then maybe you'll be able to figure out what kind of triggers you, and be able to kind of, you know, stop those kind of thoughts, because it can happen to anybody, and it's all about the meanings that we put into it. Have you seen the movie Dumb and Dumber? It's kind of an older one.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, when it first came out, it used to make me really sad, which was really strange, and it would get me all teary-eyed, but just because my best friend and I were fighting at the time. And I was going to go see it with her, we had that fight, and I went and saw it with other friends, and I felt really guilty, and I felt really bad, and so for me, that movie, the meaning behind it was, it made me sad.
Oh.
And it, you know, when I realized, okay, well, that's why it made me sad, and then I can see Jim Carrey movies again, so. Does that, you know, that makes sense? So
Yeah.
just finding the meaning behind what makes us anxious, what makes us sad, what makes us do what we do, and being able to, you know, to understand that and accept it.
Sure.
Does that sound good?
Yep, that sounds good.
Okay. And how do you feel that it went today? Do you feel like it went well?
Yeah, I think that we're off to, I feel like I understand more, and I thank you for listening to me.
Well, thank you for
It
coming
wasn't
in.
it wasn't the easiest, but I feel like I need to make it a point to try to figure something out with these racing thoughts.
And that makes sense. I also want to give you this pamphlet. It talks a little bit about anxiety and kind of goes through different parts of it and different ways of thinking, and all, you know, so it kind of gives you a little bit of information on it that you can take home and read at your leisure. It's not, you know, a lot of people have it and a lot of people don't come in for it,